Shalum. Shalom and welcome to White Robes family. My name is Symmanayah, and these are the words I'm compelled to present before an awakening nation. To you who are listening and viewing this is part 9 of the closing scroll. I've put up a playlist, and I've mentioned years ago about habitable places shrinking, forcing man back to the region where life began. I have spoken that I believe that in Yahuwah's word and his promises of gathering his children from the four corners of the earth, those whom he has chosen to fulfill this prophecy that many call the final Exodus or the greater Exodus. I have spoken on this many times, and I have devoted this series for that. My brothers and sisters, this segment brings attention to the words flattening the curve. If you look, O Yashar'al, if you currently look at what is going on with this coronavirus, COVID-19, you will see, you would not be hard pressed to find words that talk about flattening the curve. Flattening the curve basically is trying to slow down the epidemic to where it does not exceed the capacity of hospitals and medical clinics to service the ill and those affected by COVID-19. I've put a copy of the graph that they spoke of. In the red section here, the high loop or the high curve represents an outbreak that far exceeds the capacity of cities, states, countries, provinces, and various other locales and forms of government, causing hysteria and panic. If the curve could become lessened or flattened, as you see in the blue illustration here, it can make the servicing of those that are ill more manageable. My brothers and sisters, I had an encounter in my prayer, and I believe the Most High, in the name of Yahusha, said to me that in that final Exodus, it will be a time of famine, pestilence, and disease. And one of the motivating factors would be akin to flattening this curve, to give incentive to the world to let the people of the children of Yahuwah go from captivity and release the promised land that has been given them years, centuries ago. Come with me, my brothers and sisters, as I present a case that I believe flattening the curve is an incentive as Yashar'al began to migrate and cry out, and as leaders begin to emerge saying, "Let my people go, thus saith the Almighty Father Yahuwah. Let my people go." The world leaders will begin to be gladly accommodating once it reached the threshold that they know that they cannot control nor contain. Flattening the curve, O Yashar'al. Come with me as I present that case. But as I get into this, let me read the following. The information contained in White Robes family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuwah to Yahusha HaMashiach. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised this site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. That's to be compliant with various media platforms that are used. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence in or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please note I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. With that said, O Yashar'al, flattening the curve. My brothers and sisters, I mentioned I had an encounter in my prayer and meditation with the Almighty Father. In the name of Yahusha, I believe it was revealed to me. Not only does COVID-19 represents one of the major plagues of end times, there will be more to come. And each one bringing an intensity to force the world governing body to, one, acknowledge who the true Hebrews, Abraham, the true chosen children of Yahuah are. Two, to release them from captivity and release the border regulations and release the land that has been promised to them. Starting with the set-apart mountain of Yahuah, the true Mount Sinai. Next, to assist with transporting the 12 tribes of Yashar'al that have been set apart, that have been called and drawn by the Almighty Father, to assist with their transportation to that location. I am compelled to believe, as I mentioned before, that on the Western Hemisphere there will be mass gathering and we will depart on container ships. I believe, my brothers and sisters, leaders guided by the Spirit of Yahuah will confirm and reaffirm to the world, let my people go, speaking as the Most High would direct them to speak, with instructions saying, provide us with resources and supplies for sustainability. And I'm not talking about luxuries and conveniences. I'm saying the necessities for us to start building our residence in the promised land centered around the true Mount Sinai. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. It will come to the point where messengers of Yahuah, prophets of Yahuah, leaders of Yahuah will speak with the instructions that are necessary to release us from the barriers that holds us back. For we are the great restraint. And I believe it will get worse before it gets better. And that better for those outside the court, those that are not a part of the set-apart body, that better would be allowing them to form their one world government and have their one world leader and false prophet. Better for the tribes of Yashar'al would be we will return home. And for those who do not return home before the physical return of Yahusha, we will face physical death and we will rest in much Shalum until resurrection day. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al. If you've been asleep, consider the update. Consider this. My brothers and sisters, as of 7 p.m. Eastern Time, on the month known by the Gregorian calendar as March 21st, 2020, worldwide total infected was 304,622. The number of deaths reported were 13,000. In the United States, the number of infected, 23,940. The number of deaths, 3,001. I'm quite sure these numbers have changed since 7 p.m. Eastern Time, March 21st. There are no known cures for this virus. The numbers are adding up, and it will prove to bring extreme humbling times. The time is now to discern true leaders and begin to prepare to gather together. Discern the triggers for end time fulfillment. Triggers, things that get to the point where you say, I must move, I have to move, I will move. Where we will begin to use powerful words that are given to us by the Almighty Father. Remember, O Yashar'al, there will be a gathering from the four corners of the earth. Remember Isaiah 11:12. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, I say to you, these conditions will prove to bring about the movement that is necessary, will prove evidence of a closing scroll, will prove that flattening the curve can come by millions gathering together and moving to the promised land. Consider these words, these questions, my brothers and sisters. questions. Do you believe there will be a final exodus? Do you desire to be in the ranks of those gathered? Will you support the actions? Are you willing to support the actions for gathering, whether you are in the ranks or not? Let me correct that slide since I see that error, my brothers and sisters. There are times when I don't do video editing, but given the fact, oh Yashar'al, that I see it, I will take the time to make that correction. So bear with me a moment. Okay, I believe I got that fixed on one end. My brothers and sisters, some of you probably tired of hearing these words. Some of us may be becoming excited by these words, knowing that end times are unfolding before our very eyes. My brothers and sisters, our very eyes. Let's see if I made that correction. My brothers and sisters, end times are here. Are you willing to support the actions for gathering, whether you are in the ranks or not? Believe it or not, there will be those that will support what is necessary for the final exodus to come to be. Consider our forefathers from days long ago. They supported the messages of set-apartness, but they did not get to see what we see. Have you given consideration to the details that will spark the final exodus? I say to you, O Yashar'al, visit Exodus chapters 7 through 12. Read carefully and prayerfully. There are many things to consider regarding details and processes to come, O Yashar'al. I cannot stress enough. There will be leadership and structure as the preparations begin to become visible regarding Yashar'al's final exodus from the four corners of the earth. Remember, this plan belongs to the Almighty Father Yahuah. Prepare to witness placement in position, O set-apart family. There will be the time of identifying needs, my brothers and sisters. Identifying need and processes for the journeys that we are to face ahead. Those outside the Western Hemisphere will find that leaders will rise in their prospective countries, and they will gather. Much of Yahudah is in the Western Hemisphere, and Yahudah carries the scepter. Yahudah will be the lead of the nations coming together. And yes, there will be 12 tribes represented. 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Yashar'al, as it is written in Revelation 7 chapter. There will also be a great multitude of many nations, kindreds, and tongues, including Hebrews, Abraham, who may not identify a specific tribe other than Yashar'al, the set-apart awakening body of Yahuah, quickened by the spirit of Yahusha. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters, the needs. There are needs that we will recognize. There will be instructions for getting these needs together. Needs regarding transportation, resources and supplies, schedules and times, intermittent movement, knowing when to move, when not to move, witnessing mountains move, earthquakes causing grounds to open up, rivers to dry up, rivers to overflow, witnessing phenomenal and cataclysmic, in some cases, weather conditions, adjusting and adapting swiftly, growing stronger in set-apartness and being focused is a need. Pressing forward, being able to look straight ahead and not look back, O Yashar'al, for looking back will cause depression, remorse, and be a weight for those who are not included, and flattening this curve that I believe is important for Yashar'al to recognize that the Almighty Father creates the condition to bring about the humbling for man to recognize his presence. Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, make no mistake, facing envy and jealousy will be a thing for some of us. We will be reproved, disciplined, and corrected, and some of us will not. Managing disappointments, accepting chosen leadership in the selection process is something we will grow to recognize and embrace. Managing our fear, knowing that there's a fear of Yahuah, that out of that the fruit comes the knowledge from Yahuah of what we must do, referencing Proverbs 1:7. Managing fear, the fear of what man can do, we put it in its proper place, for we will grow to know the strength of the inward man, O Yashar'al. Discerning continuous guidance, constantly praying day by day, seeking to discern the guidance from the Almighty Father, subjecting ourselves one to another, as Ephesians 5:21 say, as the Spirit of Yahuah works in us one towards another, and as he worked through his leaders. Knowing the importance of belief, which some call faith, and making wise decisions. My brothers and sisters, there's a trip ahead. There's a great trip, and it will include attendees. And there will be those left behind. The trip and attendees, we must look at the things that will be challenging before us, O Yashar'al. The realities of end times are here. My brothers and sisters, remember Isaiah 43. And for the sake of time, I'll just say pause the slide if you want to read it. Isaiah 43 through 47. I want to bring your attention to the 7th verse, 43:7, which it says, even made for my esteem. You see, many think that all of us will be gathered, all the set-apart ones, and all the obedient children will be gathered. This is not true. Only those who will be used to fulfill what is written. And there will be a process, O Yashar'al, and we will know and embrace that process. Pray and watch. There are other passages that talk about the final exodus. This is only a portion of many. My brothers and sisters, it is important for us to know our directions or be close to those who know how to navigate. Identifying routes in the journey to true Mount Sinai, currently known as Jabal al-Laws, located in the northwest quadrant of Saudi Arabia, is important. There will be many routes taken, land and sea, and some even by air. O Yashar'al, the triggers of movement will come when we recognize, when the world recognize and admit who the true Hebrews, the true children of Yahuah, the true Abraham, and when the world state clearly that they will let the true children of Yahuah go to the place that had been promised to them by the Almighty Father. COVID-19, the coronavirus, is one of more to come, and they will come with intensity. If I am a servant of the Almighty Father Yahuah, pray and watch, O Yashar'al, believe this, there will be those who will begin to move and will be identified as the children of obedience. And there will be those who will hesitate in disbelief. Recognizing the methods, details, and processes for reaching the final destination is important. Knowing that destination. Praying for those left behind, O Yashar'al, is critical. In the coming days, my brothers and sisters, as we begin to witness leaders rise up, as we begin to witness being refined by the Almighty Father, we will also see individuals making known schedules and departure times from specific areas that we are located as we begin to migrate as directed by the Almighty Father. Making known schedules and departures will be something very visible. For those who are talking about, I'm going to an undisclosed location, I'm going underground, to those who won't tell you how they can be reached personally, physically, and try to hide, because I say to you, my brothers and sisters, many of these are those seeking to gain their own life and will lose it. Make no mistake, Yashar'al, end times are here. We have moved beyond types and shadows, and though it may calm down a bit, life as we know it will never be the same as it was. My brothers and sisters, flattening the curve. Now you must ask yourself, do you want to be a contributor to flattening the curve? Not only by sheltering in place, but by becoming a part of the group that will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, that will leave the prospective countries, provinces, states, and cities, so that they have the capacity to service those that are ill. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, there will be healings among the gathered. The power and might of the word of the Almighty Father will become visible and real. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, did you ever believe you would be witnessing such a time as this? My brothers and sisters, it is necessary knowing when to be proactive versus reactive. I've mentioned in times past to move while you can. And some will be released from quarantines and areas that they are ordered to stay in, and some will not. There will be a release of the children of Yahuah to fulfill that final gathering, and it will prove to contribute to flattening the curve, O Yashar'al. These conditions right now have brought about narratives and propaganda, true words and wicked words. These conditions are proving one thing, that the world is beginning to know its limitations. It's beginning to witness things that they cannot control. Pray and watch the power and the might of the Almighty Father. If you visited Exodus, or if you visit it, you'll see that it was the demonstration of Yahuwah's power before Pharaoh, before he finally let the children of Yahuwah go. And I say to you, we will witness similar things that will bring an extreme to where world leaders will recognize their ultimate leader, the wicked one. For he knows that he cannot put his pawns, the anti-Messiah and false prophet, into their full position until he that restrained is removed, and that is us, O Yashar'al. That is those who will be gathered from the four corners of the earth, and those who will be brought to deliverance by physical death and rest to make way. But the final exodus is the restraint for the fullness of the mark of the beast, the anti-Messiah and false prophet, my brothers and sisters. Those who wait to react will find themselves caught, trapped, facing regret and pain. We must identify qualifiers and quantities. When it comes to movement, we must identify who will be gathered and who will not. You see, my brothers and sisters, though it may appear man or men or women are making these decisions, the decisions will be made by the Almighty Father. Anyone outside of that will face what is necessary to keep you out of the way of the hand of the Almighty Father in fulfilling his promises to his children. Journey preparations, my brothers and sisters. Prepare to witness true movement. Yashar'al. Have we learned to listen? Have we learned to identify what's ahead? Factors to consider that will prove forced migrations will come. Add them up. Living orders and guidance going forth. Listening and discerning, believing and obeying the living words from the Almighty Father Yahuah in the name of Yahusha. Widespread famine and pestilent disease will force movement. Economic conditions, economic collapse will force individuals to move to where they think they will be safe. Global warming and climate change will bring some of the most irregular weather patterns the world has ever seen. Forcing migration, forcing movement. Civil unrest will rise beyond our imaginations, O Yashar'al. We will come to identify the triggers and precise timing to move. Yashar'al, do not doubt these words. I want to say to you, my brothers and sisters, beware of those quick to dismiss the signs of the times. Beware of those who are watering down what's happening. Beware of those who will try to say you're panicking when the Most High is calling for a sense of urgency. Beware of those who take this lightly and say, I don't fear. I stand before you in the name of Yahusha. I don't fear anything. But are they given instructions on what should be done, what must be done, what will be done? Are they given instructions to you in the event of their demise? If they're a leader, a warrior, a teacher, pastor, bishop, are they passing instructions down to all who are under them on how to pursue the will of the Almighty Father, how to grow in discernment, and how to respond to him without criticism? You see, there are those that will criticize the obedient children of Yahuah. Make no mistake, they will receive their rewards for such actions. It's time to look in the mirror. It's time to pray. It's time to ask, seek, discern what the Almighty Father is saying to you. And anyone who's trying to water it down or make light of the promised discipline, vengeance, and wrath that the Almighty Father have, they will be reproved and corrected and rise up anew in the strength and power of Yahuah in Yahusha's name, or they will be removed, or you will find that we will come away from such individuals. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. It is important, my brothers and sisters, to remember Hebrews 11:1, for it clearly states, and belief is the substance of what is expected, the proof of what is not seen. The words I speak to you, O Yashar'al, seek to discern. For you may not see the evidence now, but in due season you will. Watch the trajectory and the velocity, how fast things are evolving as it relates to end time prophecies, as it relates to current conditions and conditions to come. And remember Hebrews 11:6, O Yashar'al, but without belief it is impossible to please him, for he who comes to the Almighty One has to believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. Belief is something that we cannot fabricate, though many are grabbing belief and trying to fabricate a sense of security, a sense of protectionism. Belief is discerning what the Almighty Father is saying and responding to him. Just because someone say, I believe this will happen, doesn't necessarily mean that that will. The realities of the presence of the Almighty Father will become clearer in the coming of days, my brothers and sisters. Waiting to physically see may result in being left behind and or facing much regret at the very least. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, let us learn to vet let us learn to examine. Let us learn to ask questions. When chosen prophets and leaders rise, they will come with severe messages. They will come with warnings and instructions. They will come with directions for Yashar'al, being fortified in the strength and power and might of the Almighty Father. They will come with proof, power, and results. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, it's time for us to recognize, my brothers and sisters, for us to recognize what is expected and to respond to what the Almighty Father is saying to us. What say you, O Yashar'al? What is your position? Are you prepared to witness prophets and leaders rise, chosen and directed by the Almighty Father, giving instructions that are severe, that come with power, not suggestions? It's not about an if or a maybe. End time prophecies will be fulfilled. Therefore, there will be the obedient, the ones who are walking, pleasing the Almighty Father, the ones who are serving him in spirit and in truth. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, flattening the curve. Will you raise your hand up to contribute towards flattening the curve? To you who are world leaders monitoring all traffic on the internet, flattening the curve will prove to be possible by releasing the set-apart children of Yahuah, by acknowledging the true Hebrews, the true Abraham, and those who follow the ways of Yahuah, who are Gentiles, together that are grafted as one by the Almighty Father through Yahusha HaMashiach. Are you one of those who are willing to raise your hand saying, send me, Abba Yahuah, send me, I will go. I will contribute towards flattening the curve. I will contribute towards the gathering of Yashar'al. I am willing to step into the actions required to fulfill what is promised. I am willing to support such actions. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. The realities of those who will participate will unfold before our very eyes. Yashar'al, oh Yashar'al, do not be deceived if it seems like things may at some point calm down, for this is one of many extreme intense conditions that demand that the curve be flattened. Are you not aware that it said in the last days, earthquakes in diverse places, famine, pestilence, and disease, wars and rumors of wars? Are you not aware that the fruit of these conditions will cause people to be running, flocking, trying to get hospital care, medical care? Those who are not guided by the Almighty Father will go by the means that they know best, and that's go to a doctor, go to the hospitals. Flattening the curve is more to that message, my brothers and sisters, than many realize. Look around, my brothers and sisters. Look at everything that spells disease. Look at all factors contributing to famine. Are you aware that locusts is on the rise, not only in Africa, the Middle East, heading to China, and even parts of the United States, and various other areas that the news are not reporting? It's a matter of time, my brothers and sisters, before the food distribution networks freeze up, because there are no food, or minimum food. It's a matter of time before people start trying to hijack the food trucks, the supply trucks. It's a matter of time before people get upset at loved ones dying in mass numbers. Civil unrest is chaos. It's over the horizon, O Yashar'al. But make no mistake, the children of Yahuah, we have our assignments, and it will become crystal clear what we are tasked to do. And each of us represent parts of the body of Yahuah will discover what is expected. Pray, O Yashar'al. This is a time to choose wise counsel. This is a time to listen to the instructions and receive what the Most High have to say. Flattening the curve. You have been listening to the closing scroll, part 9, Flattening the Curve. My name is Symmanayah, and I say to you, O Yashar'al, These are the realities of end times. Seek the Almighty Father. In the name of Yahusha, seek to discern and obey what is expected. In the name of Yahusha, I come to you. My name is Symmanayah, and I say, Shalum. For Shalum will come in understanding that this plan belongs to the Almighty Father, and that it must and will be completed. Shalom.